Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about what you can expect on an ayahuasca retreat, and I'm going to give my honest review of the Lotus Vine retreats down here in Peru with Spring Washam. So in this video I'm going to be giving an overview of what to expect on the retreat, what are some of the things we did, what the experience was like, and then I'll also be talking about what I think are some of the pros and cons of this particular retreat. So I have to start off by saying that this was my first ayahuasca experience, so I don't have anything to compare it to, but I can give you my honest opinion. So starting off with just kind of talking about the overview of what to expect on a Lotus Vine retreat. So these retreats are a combination of both ayahuasca plant medicines as well as the Buddhist meditation, kind of the structure of Buddhist meditation retreats. So you're going to get both the traditional plant medicine, the sacred wisdom coming in from that direction, and then you also get the Buddhist wisdom coming in from the meditation and the Dharma teachings from Spring. So for me, when I saw that, I knew it was kind of the perfect setup for me for an ayahuasca experience, because for me, I really believe in the power of the Buddhist framework as a path to liberation, whatever you want to call it, to healing, to happiness, inner peace, awakening. I really trust in the Buddhist framework in terms of understanding craving, understanding the sources of suffering as a pathway to genuine inner peace, genuine happiness. So that's why I signed up and came down here to Peru. So there's 2 weeks of the retreat, and over those 2 weeks you do 7 ayahuasca ceremonies. So it's not necessarily every other day. It's more like you'll do back-to-back ceremonies, and then you might have a day off or 2 days off, and then another pair of back-to-back ceremonies, and then 1 or 2 days off, back-to-back, another few days off, and then one more. So they're evenly spaced out. It's quite nice. It's a good setup. In addition to the ceremonies, there's also a lot of group sharing opportunities. So every morning after the ceremony, we kind of gathered in a group with all 24 people, so there are 24 participants, and we did some sharing about our experience from the previous night. It was really kind of a mindful listening practice for the whole group. So one person had the chance to share whatever was on their mind, whatever they wanted to talk about from the night before. Some people decided to pass just because they didn't feel like sharing, or they just didn't have anything to share, but most people took the time to share what happened with them, and it was a great way to process a lot of the experiences. So that happens. And then on the Lotus Vine retreat, there's also a lot of there's a daily yoga session, so there's a kind of mindful movement, very gentle yoga because the nights are pretty intense. And then there's also some flower baths and group meals. It's just really a wonderful experience overall. Aside from that, there's also meetings with the meditation teacher, with Spring Washam, and also with the facilitators and with the maestro. The maestro is another word for the shaman down here in Peru. So the person who kind of facilitates the ayahuasca ceremonies, along with the teacher Spring and the 2 facilitators. So that's the kind of overall logistics, the setup of the retreat. In terms of the ayahuasca ceremony itself, what it looks like is the night of the ceremony, when you're going in to do the retreat, you gather in the room that it's held in, the building that it's held in, which is called the Maloca. And you gather there around 7 p.m. and do about half an hour of meditation to start the ceremony off right. And then there's a short kind of bathroom break, maybe some words by the teacher and the facilitators. And then at around 8 p.m. everyone takes the medicine. And then there's some silence for a while, and then after that the maestro kind of takes over with his Icaros. And Icaros is a word for the kind of traditional songs of an ayahuasca ceremony. So the maestro, the shaman, will be singing his Icaros, his songs. And the whole ceremony lasts about 5 or 6 hours. So from around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. is when you ingest, and then it goes until around 1 a.m. or 1:30 in the morning. After that, then this ceremony officially closes. Spring says a few words, and then you have a chance to go up and have some fruit or maybe talk with anyone who feels like talking up in the kitchen. Time to kind of decompress and process what happens, or you can just go straight to bed. So that's the kind of setup of what it's like. So next I want to talk about what I think are the pros and cons of the Lotus Vine Retreat. And I should say, I'm not in cahoots with them. I'm not getting paid to do this. So this really is my honest review. So I'll start with the pros and I'll end with the cons. So the first pro I wanted to talk about is the location. So the location of the Lotus Vine Retreats happens in a place called Pumarinri down in Tarapoto in Peru. And it's kind of nestled just along the side of a riverbank underneath this mountain. So Pumarinri stands for the ears of the puma. And when you look across the river up into the mountains, you see these two peaks of the mountain, and they really do look like puma ears, and it's just a beautiful place. So that's the name of the resort that we stayed at, and it's just, the location itself is spectacular and wonderful, very peaceful, far away from any noise or light pollution. You can see the stars. You really feel like you're kind of in nature, but also very nurtured. So it is a resort. I mean, there's a pool, there's really wonderful rooms and accommodations. The bathrooms are nice. You're not like in the middle of a jungle. I know some people who go on an ayahuasca retreat, they go into the middle of a jungle and you're just kind of on a platform in the jungle. And to me, that sounds a little intense. So I really loved the location of the Lotus Vine Retreat. So that's the first pro, is the location. And the Maloca itself, the Maloca again is the place where we did the ayahuasca ceremony. So this is just a building. It's kind of like a yoga room, but it's got these screen windows, so you still feel very much like you're outside. And the Maloca is this tall roofed building, and it sits under this beautiful tree. I think it's an ohe tree or something like that. But the tree itself just feels like it's very protective of the Maloca, so it's a wonderful place to be. The next pro, I would say, of the retreat is just the overall structure of the 2 weeks and the 7 ceremonies. There are a lot of places where you can go and you do a single ayahuasca ceremony. And for me, if I had just done a single ceremony, it wouldn't have done enough, because you're just getting in touch with the medicine. They say that over time you're building a relationship with the medicine. And since this is my first video about ayahuasca, I should say just a little bit more that they talk about ayahuasca as the mother, or sometimes the grandmother, and it's like a motherly spirit, and they say you're learning from Mother Ayahuasca. And so the more you take the medicine, the more you're developing a relationship with Mother Ayahuasca, with the medicine. So whether or not you're into kind of like, is she a spirit? Is she not a spirit? Is it all in your mind? Is it, something real? For me, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're following me on this channel, you probably know that I'm not so much into spirits or spiritual things. But I can appreciate the value of seeing it as a kind of motherly spirit or grandmotherly spirit. And either way, you're still developing a relationship with the medicine. So having the chance to do 7 ceremonies over 2 weeks really gives you that opportunity to develop that relationship, and you start to learn how to work with the medicine a bit more. So I think the 2 weeks of the Lotus Vine Retreat is really perfect, being able to do those 7 ceremonies. They really encourage you to do all 7, even if you're feeling like it's tough. Sometimes you have to change the amount of medicine you take, so you might take a little less, you might take a little more, but they do try to encourage you to really attend all 7. And then the rest of the structure, the yoga was fantastic. There was a flower bath before every ceremony, which was beautiful, in this lovely like waterfall coming down from the mountain. And then there were occasional other things. We took a day trip in the middle to go to this waterfall, like a hike, a 45-minute hike. The structure was just very well thought out. So I would say that's another pro, structure. The next thing I want to talk about as a pro of this retreat, and this is a huge one, would be the teachers and the facilitators. So The first one I'll talk about is Spring. So Spring was the kind of the main facilitator, the main teacher. And if you know Spring, you know that she's a very well-respected Dharma teacher in the U.S. So she teaches at places like Spirit Rock and IMS in the past, and just a lot of beautiful wisdom, the Buddha Dharma. And it's the main reason that I came on this retreat, is because I've sat with Spring before, and I know that I really connect with the way that she talks about the Dharma, the way she talks about, it doesn't matter if you're not even into Buddhism, just like how we can wake up as human beings, how we can be more loving, more compassionate, more understanding, have more wisdom. And I love the way that Spring talks about it. And so to infuse the ayahuasca plant medicines, the traditional wisdom tradition of South America, with this structure and framework of the Buddha Dharma, in terms of turning towards everything with love and kindness and compassion, and seeing the kind of impermanence of things, cultivating equanimity. I mean, there's just so much benefit to be had by bringing together these two traditions. And in my opinion, I think Spring just does a fantastic job of doing both justice, because you can do kind of, like if you go to a fusion restaurant, like fusion Italian, Chinese, like it's usually not that good of either one. But in this instance of this fusion, it really feels like both traditions were very well respected and very well represented, and that in coming together, they formed a synergy that was even more beautiful than either one alone. So I really love that, just what Spring is doing with this this Lotus Vine journey. So aside from Spring, there were two facilitators. So these were people that were in the ceremonies, who themselves have done many ceremonies over the last few years or decades, and they were kind of the helper spirits. So when people needed assistance, when people really needed help, they were around the whole night, really just helping people out. And I'll talk about this in one of my other videos when I talk about my experience on ayahuasca itself, but there was a time where I really needed assistance, and one of the facilitators, a man named Hugo, really came over and just, it feels like he saved my life. And they're just such beautiful souls that are there to help you. So I don't know what it's like in other ayahuasca centers, but to have these two facilitators there during the ceremonies, looking out for you and bringing you water, bringing you your bucket to puke in, bringing you your blanket if you're cold, made a huge difference. And I'm just full of gratitude and love for the facilitation that they brought to the retreat. So another huge pro for the Lotus Vine Journeys is the teachings from Spring Washam, the Dharma talks that she brought, the wisdom and love that she brought, and then the help from the facilitators, just these beautiful, gentle souls. So another pro of the Lotus Vine. Then there's also the maestro. So the maestro is the shaman. He is the person who has been partaking in this medicine, these journeys, since he was, I think, 8 years old, and he's now, I don't know, in his 40s or 50s, or he's been in touch with the medicine a lot, and he sings his Icaros, the songs, to help you, I don't really know, to kind of get in touch with the medicine, get in touch with what it's trying to teach you. And his, I don't want to call it a performance, because that feels like it brings it down, but it was just a beautiful thing to have him there helping us out. So that was the maestro, and he was great. You do unfortunately hear stories about maestros or shamans who are not so pure, not so, let's say, compassionate or helpful. There are some who are maybe some confused energies and might take advantage of people, but the maestro on this retreat, has been fully vetted, and he's just, you can feel the love that he has for the pasajeros, the participants. So he was great also. The last pro I'm going to talk about, and I really think that this might be the most important part of the retreat, and it was really the most healing part, and that was the Sangha, which is the community of other people there journeying. I could not imagine doing this retreat without the people I did it with. So there were 24 of us, I think there were 24, something like that, people on this retreat. And as I mentioned, we do some reflections, some sharing the morning after. Often you'll see them later that night in the kitchen where there's fruit served. And just over the course of these 2 weeks, you really get to know these people on a super deep level. Some of these people who I met on this retreat, I know them more deeply than I know people that I've known for years and years and years. So not only do you make these deep connections, but just the process of talking about your experience with others and hearing about the experience of others is healing in itself. And I would say one of the most healing parts of it is just having those other people there. So if you have the opportunity to do an ayahuasca retreat, I would highly recommend doing one where you're doing it with other people going along the journey with you. So there are places you can do it as a solo journeyer, but I'd really recommend doing one where you can do a few extra days, like at least 3 days, at least 5 days, something like that, and then one where there's other people there. I would say, and I'll talk more in another video about my experience with ayahuasca itself, what I experienced during the ceremonies. A lot of I had a lot of fear coming up, a lot of anxiety and panic, and a lot of it was related to the fact that there were 23 other people in the room, but I still wouldn't change it for anything. So I hope that helps give you some idea about what to look for. And then lastly, the medicine itself was great. I have nothing to compare it to. It's my first ayahuasca experience, but the medicine worked. For most of us. There was, I think, one person, maybe two people, where they had a lot of blockages in their system, and the medicine wasn't so strong just for them. And this is just for any person, there's a possibility it might not affect them. It did affect them, but they just needed to take a lot more. So that's one of the other benefits of doing 7 ceremonies, is you have time to kind of notch it up if the medicine is not strong enough for you initially. But for the majority of us, the medicine, very intense. Okay, so those are my pros. I'll just wrap them up again. Location, Pumarinri, beautiful, peaceful, very like this feeling of protection and safety. The schedule of the retreat itself, the 2 weeks, 7 ceremonies, yoga, flower baths, good food, all that stuff, really amazing. The teachers and facilitators, I can't say enough about how wonderful that all was. And then the Sangha and the community of people there. So those are my pros. The only con I can really think of on this retreat is just that for some people the price will be prohibitive. It's not the cheapest of retreats, and I totally understand that. And I feel sorry that it won't be available to everyone based on the price, but that's the way it is with almost everything. And I would say that there probably are opportunities. You could get in touch with the Lotus Vine crew, and if you're in financial need, they might have options. So definitely check into it. I will say that, for me, the same with meditation retreats that I've gone on, the yoga retreats I've done, and now the plant medicine journeys. Every single one I've done has been worth every penny. Like you can spend your money doing something else, but spending your money on healing and journeying within and learning about yourself and the universe and your place in the universe, it's priceless. So for me, completely worth it. And I think if you're able to afford it, I highly recommend it if you're interested. I would say, ayahuasca is probably not for everyone. No, let me change that. Ayahuasca is definitely not for everyone. If you're interested, then I would look into it. But it is a pretty intense experience, and so to be careful about it, especially if you have any pre-existing, conditions of things in your family. Check in with the retreat people, and they'll let you know whether or not it looks good. So just to wrap up, the question of would I go on a Lotus Vine journey again? Heck yes, I would. I'm hoping that I'll be able to go again next year if I'm able. There is another plant medicine that I've been exploring, which is called Wachuma or San Pedro, and it comes from a cactus. And to me, it's it's another very different kind of plant medicine, but also very beautiful. And I want to explore that a bit more. So I might come back to Peru and do a bit more of both, trying out some more ayahuasca plant medicines and Wachuma. And Wachuma is it's fun to say, like Wachuma. It feels, just saying the word feels like you're tapping into something ancestral and beautiful and wise. So thank you to the Mother Ayahuasca, the spirit or the not spirit, whatever it is. For me, it's more of an internal spirit. It's awakening something innate, the wisdom that we have within, which is connected to the universe. We're all connected in one way or the other. We have kind of illusions of separateness, but they're not really real. They are real, but they're not really real, as Joseph Goldstein says. And Wachuma, thank you to Wachuma. I'll do another video at some point talking about my experience with the grandfather spirit Wachuma. So I would love to hear what you guys think of this video. If you have any questions about going on the Lotus Vine retreat, about doing ayahuasca, about coming to Peru, I realized there's a lot of things I didn't say. Things like, why did I do ayahuasca in the first place? What were my reasons for coming? And I can talk about those in another video if you're interested. Yeah, overall, I do need to do a video about like some of the lessons I've learned on ayahuasca, because there's just like so many realizations and lessons that it would be good for me to talk about it at some point. But it was pretty intense, so I'm still kind of processing all of that myself. So that's it from beautiful Pisac. I'm in a place called Pisac right now. Let's see if you can see it. Beautiful. Pisac is just outside of Cusco, about 45 minutes. Lovely little kind of hippie town. Today is the Independence Day of Peru, so they're celebrating that. And I'm going to go have some food. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in and watching. And hope you enjoyed this video. And I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. Just clicking that button and saying subscribe really helps support me in doing the work that I'm trying to do in spreading love and wisdom. And oh, look at that! There's a little baby pig. Huh? All right. As soon as I said love and wisdom, there's another baby pig. There's a whole bunch. All right. Love and wisdom, peace and love, and yeah. Hit subscribe over there or over there. I never know where it is. And tell your friends about this channel. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.